Today is May the 1st, 2018. My name is Tanya Finchum. I'm with Oklahoma State University, and today I am in Oklahoma City to speak with Iris Imler. And this is part of our Oklahoma Conservation Heritage Oral History Project. So thank you for coming all the way to Oklahoma City. Typically you would be in Cimarron County.
Yes.
Right? So
tip of the Oklahoma Panhandle.
yes. God's land, as some people say, instead of no man's.
That's right. That's right.
Well, let's begin with learning a little bit about you. When and where were you born?
I was born June 4th, 1953 in Stafford, Kansas, but I was just there 3 days and came back to Oklahoma, and we lived in Boise City while I was small, and my dad worked for the Colorado Interstate Gas Company, which had a plant 15 miles north of Keys, Oklahoma. And I grew up there until I was in the 3rd grade. I began 3rd grade in Keys, Oklahoma, and that's where I made lifetime friends, and we still stay in contact. We lived out on a CIG camp, and it was a wonderful place to grow up. I think everyone ought to grow up that way. It was just like being at camp. There was 21 homes, and being a child of the generation that they called the baby boomers, there was lots of children to play, so we had a wonderful time. And moved to Oklahoma City and worked at the Aetna Medicare and completed my senior year down here, and decided didn't like the traffic and all that, and went back to Keys and then stayed there, and moved to Boise City when I married my husband Joel in 1978. So.
What does the CIG stand for?
Colorado Interstate Gas Company.
So it was a camp for
employees? It was a camp, yes.
For
and the only reason we went ahead and moved into town in my 8th grade year was that was when they decided that was too dangerous to have that many people and homes out on a gas plant property. Yeah, so and to close down the helium plant and the gas plant. They both had those at Keys. But it was a great place to grow up.
And did you have siblings?
Yes, I have an older sister, Linda Jean Powers, and she lives in Abilene, Texas now, and she's 5 years older than I am. And that was the only sibling I had.
Okay. And did your mother work outside of the home?
She mostly was a homemaker, and until she did buy a 24-hour cafe there in Boise City at one point, and ran it. It got to be too much because couldn't keep help for 24 hours, and she would stay there. Of course, I worked there a lot as waitress and dishwasher, but that was during the time that the buses were coming through with the soldiers going to Vietnam and stuff, and we were a bus stop for them to eat. So it was interesting, and was glad she quit it though before I got to high school, because that's probably all we would have gotten done is work at that restaurant. But then she retired from that and just basically a stay-at-home mom and help out at the local pharmacy at one point.
Okay. What was her favorite? What was the specialty of the house when she was?
Oh, she made the best roast beef, and everything was, of course, then home cooked, and so she did wonderful pies, and her meals were really nice.
Well, in high school, did you have a favorite subject?
Math.
Really?
Yes, I loved math. Had I decided to go on and be a teacher, that's what I would have done, and still enjoy it and enjoy helping my kids whenever they were growing up with it.
Well, what prompted you to come to Oklahoma City for that one year?
I married a young man that lived down here. He'd gotten home from Vietnam and we got married, and came down here in 1970, and he worked for the Canada Dry Bottling Company, and I finished my senior year down here.
Which did you like better? Which high school did you like better?
Keys.
Yes. Much smaller, I would think.
Yes, much smaller, and of course I'd been there so many years that lots of treasured friends.
Were you in FFA or 4-H there?
No, we didn't have it.
Didn't have it
when I was growing up. Now my children are the girls, and my youngest boy were in 4-H. My oldest son was in FFA, and in fact went to college on a judging scholarship that he earned through FFA.
Good. So were your parents weren't farmers then?
No,
Grandparents?
no.
No? I'm trying to figure out, how did you get into conservation?
Well, actually, the job, my youngest one was old enough I could go to work, and I had taken some night classes over at the college in Goodwill, Panhandle State University, for computer, because I thought that's what's coming, that's going to be it. And this job opened up with excellent benefits and good people, and I applied for it and got it, and that's when I got into conservation. And in June, that will be 29 years ago, I went to work for the Conservation District in Boise City.
In do my math. You do my math.
1989, I believe it is.
89, okay.
Yeah.
That would be right if it's 29
Yeah.
years, yeah. Doing the same work, or did your position change a little bit?
Well, as a small district and farmer-oriented and working with the Natural Resource Conservation Service, you do just about a little of anything with the farming. The big thing whenever I went to work was the planting of the CRP there in Conservation Reserve Program, grass program in Cimarron County, and we sold lots of grass seed, and then we had drills to rent out for the farmers to use. And then they had other programs that helped put the conservation on the ground with the no-till program and minimum till and such. But that was through NRCS. And the district now, we have a cost share program that they have worked hard to get, and we can help the farmers put a practice on the ground. Most generally in our area, we have no surface water. I have a small lake that is now got water in it, but there has come a time it wasn't. And we get all our water from the Ogallala aquifer,
Right.
underground aquifer. And so we drill lots of livestock wells and put in tanks, livestock tanks, and to help with the cattle.
Yeah, I think I was reading somewhere you had a started, or one of the first to do testing the water.
Yes, there was a demand to test our water for coliform and all sorts of minerals. And the directors tried to work with the Texas County directors and with PSU to get, which is the college there, to get a water lab put in, and it just wasn't working out. So we put a water lab in there at the office, and the equipment manager at that time, Jim Belford, and I went to the Texas Water Resource Board and was trained on how to use the equipment that we purchased. And we could test, but we weren't a certified lab. To be a certified lab, you had to have a licensed chemist there, and there wasn't any way you could afford to do that. But we tested a lot of water. If we would find a problem, we'd give them the address and the name to the health department at Guyman at Texas County, and we'd send them over there and have them do further tests and see what's going on. Very rarely we found anything that was too out of the regular, what do I want to say, the norms on what to test for. But this college did get a certified lab eventually, and they run it. And I lost my equipment manager, he moved, and we just haven't been doing the water because they can use the certified lab over at the college. So in November this year, I believe it was, I wrote that down. Let me see if I can find that. I contacted the lab company where we bought our stuff to see if they would take used equipment back. And no, they of course wouldn't. So I can't find that right now. I hate to do that to you. If you wait. And the company said there wasn't any demand, of course, for the used equipment. And they would recommend giving it to a college or someone in the area. And we decided to contact our schools. The biggest school in the county is Boise City, and at the county seat. And so I asked the principal and the high school science teacher if he'd be interested in the incubators and all of the test tubes and chemicals and machines that we had. And they were just ecstatic because, of course, the schools, with the funding the way it is, couldn't afford that equipment. And it turned out that they shared the incubator and some of the chemicals and stuff for testing with the FFA instructor. So we donated all that to the school, and it was a good thing. And they really have enjoyed it and put it to use.
Well, when you very first started, what was a typical day like for you in the beginning?
In the beginning?
In the beginning.
We did a lot of course, by hand paperwork. We didn't use the computers a lot. Computers were used to put programs in and contracts. And it was just reading the public and seeing what their needs were and directing them to either the district conservationist for that program or directing them wherever they needed to go to find what they needed. Now through the equipment manager and myself, we would lease the equipment, and the district conservationist or the soil conservationist would figure out what grass seed varieties or what spray they needed, or what they needed to complete their program, or to check out what they needed, or if they needed to have land leveling done or a pond dug or something, they could get them information on what the requirements were and get people out to help. So basically, we just all work together. We have an excellent working relationship with our Natural Resource Conservation Service and with our Farm Service Agency. That isn't in every county, but we're all in there together for conservation, so we all work together. And we are at that time we were in separate buildings. It was called Rural Development, or FHA, was in another building, and then FSA was behind us, and then we were in the other side. The Conservation District decided to build a building because they had decided to co-locate everybody to make it easier on the consumer to get their business done. And so after looking at the buildings available in our little small town, we decided to build a building. And districts cannot borrow money. We're a government agency. We cannot borrow money unless we borrow it from another district. So we went with Greer County and got a loan with Greer County Conservation District for $90,000, and then we had made money from selling the grass seed, which we just mark up, which we're a service, and we try not to compete with anyone in the Cimarron County area. So, but that money had been invested in CDs, which were paying at that time, and so we had money, and then we decided to they had decided to put RD or FHA in with us. So we had three offices, three offices in this building, and at our 50th anniversary, which we began in 1948, and it just so happened at our 50th anniversary we paid off our mortgage. So this is how we bring in money too, is rent. And
Okay.
the government decided to incorporate the FHA with the NRCS, or the FSA, and so we had to build a room in their room for privacy because of talking about loans and stuff. And we have now rented the middle where they used to be to the Oklahoma Farm Bureau Insurance Agency. So we keep it busy, keep the building occupied.
And you can build a little nest egg to do something with?
Yes.
With the rent?
Yes, and keep enough for maintenance and keeping up with the government regulations on new doors, new this, new that. But
Is that what you use to buy new equipment with, or whatever equipment you rent out?
yes,
That too?
yes. The drills have really become obsolete because most farmers have their own now after they used the no-tills and minimum tills, and if they liked it, or it was just a small drill anyway, just to get them to do the no-till. And after they used it, most of them bought their own. And
So the district would have you and then the equipment guy and then a board?
yes, I have a board of directors. There's 5 members, and 2 are appointed by the governor and 3 are elected. And they, Hal Clark has been on my board for 51 years, and he is definitely, he's an excellent board member. He is interested in the politics of it, and he'll contact the legislators. He'll travel and do things for the conservation districts to make sure that we're getting what we need. At this time, I have Harold Dawson, who was a rancher out in the Kenton area, and then I have Nathan Johnson, who is a farmer and has a lot of irrigated land, dry land, no-till, minimum till. And I have J.P. Burke, who is the same, along with the no-till and minimum till. He has cattle. I have Kim Hitchings, who, with Kim and her daughter Misty, they run the entire farm and ranch after her husband passed. And they have cattle, and they custom cut and harvest for a lot of other people, and they have their own land that they plant. And then Hal. And Hal is, he has a Centennial Ranch north of Boise City, and so he's a rancher and retired car dealer and all, but he's a great asset to the county.
Well, on any given day, do the board members, do they come in and out, or they just meet once a month? Or
Well,
what?
they all try to meet once a month. Now in the summer it's a little difficult because of the farming with Kim and Nathan and JP. Sometimes we don't have a meeting, and they'll come in and sign the bill checks and stuff like that, so we can keep going, and then we'll catch it up the next month. I can't get a quorum to have a meeting, but if they're in town, they drop in, see what's going on. And when I was trying to sell some equipment, they came by, and the 2 young farmers went out and looked at the equipment, told me what it would bring at an auction or what I could price it at. And we get involved in the community, trying to help the community learn about conservation, what's available, and what they can do for conservation. We have poster and essay contests through the Oklahoma Association of Conservation District and the National Association of Conservation District for grades PK through senior. And I have good participation in the poster and essay. One way we have encouraged that is the district will buy the poster board for the kids and take it to the schools. We are a poor county, and of course the schools can't afford to buy for everybody, so we just do that to help them, encourage them to participate. Then we have public meetings too. If something comes up, like when we had a drought, the big drought, of course we had one now, but we had another one, and we had management meetings on what to do with your cattle during a drought, how best to take care of your land if it's blowing, or if trying to conserve it through the drought. All land in Cimarron County is called HEL, highly erodible land, and that's due to wind.
Okay.
And so they have to really fight the dust and trying to keep the land on the ground, and that's where the minimum till and no-till comes in, because it keeps stuff on the ground. But then we participate at the school on farm days, farm ag days, and go to the schools when they have career day. And tell them what's available out there if you want to go into conservation or you want to assist with conservation. Another thing that we developed was a scholarship program. And when your seniors are offered at school, high school are offered scholarships, they can get scholarships as freshmen real easy, but you cannot find many scholarships for a junior or a senior in college. So we decided to give a $1,200 scholarship to a junior or a senior from Cimarron County that is majoring in agriculture field. And the response has been wonderful. We started that program in 2003, and as of this year, we have given out $22,400 to children. And sometimes we give 2 scholarships, maybe 3, because you'll get some excellent ones in. And how do you, it's one of those, you don't want to flip a coin because of the child. And we do have the funds right now, so.
Do you stipulate where they go? I mean, if it's OSU or Texas A&M, or they can go
They
anywhere?
can go to any college. They can even go to a trade school, but they have to be a junior or a senior, and it has to be an agriculture field.
Okay.
And they have to be from Cimarron County. Now, they don't have to live there now, but they had to graduate from one of the schools out there. We only have 3 schools in Cimarron County. And Boise City is the largest, and we have Felt, which is just 15 miles on west of Boise City, and we have Keys, which is 15 miles east of Boise City. And I foresee the time where they'll all come to Boise City. Mm-hmm. Of course, they've been saying that since I was a senior in high school, and that was a long time ago. So.
Well, in the time that you've been there, was Kim the first female to be on the board?
No, we had Marjorie Griswold. She was on the board. Her husband had been our district conservationist through NRCS, and he passed away, and we convinced her to come on the board. And then she was on there until she moved down to Yukon to be closer to, she has 2 sons, be closer to her kids and grandkids.
Well, I mean, probably doesn't matter out there. I mean, is there a difference? They accept the female's opinion as well as
yes, they do, because the ones we've had on there, Kim is the only other one, so it's been Marge and Kim. They're knowledgeable about what they're doing. And Marge was a retired teacher, so she helped with the school stuff, and she could help with the education. Like we did do outdoor resource days since we're so small, instead of having it every year for a class, we had it every other year for 5th and 6th grade, trying to bring in more kids. That has not been feasible for a couple years with the school testing. It always falls when one of them can't come, or needing to get travel to get the educators out there to help me put it on. But we have had wonderful participation, and we bring in presenters from Kansas and from Colorado or from New Mexico if I need help, because we're just right there at the tip of the panhandle. We're more like Kansas, Colorado, and Texas than we are most of Oklahoma. So it's we all work together and trying to get that done.
Well, with the recent historical fire, have you had anything to do with that? It may have not got to your county, though.
Yeah, well, we had one across the top that came out of New Mexico, and it went across the top of Black Mesa. Black Mesa is the highest elevation in Oklahoma, and it's located out our way. And that fire came across the top of the mesa. And so the district helped provide water and stuff for the firefighters. They had a collection point to bring stuff in. We assisted with doing that. But we have assisted through the years with certain things that had come through. In December of 06 and January 07, we had a massive blizzard. And when they called in the National Guard, and they brought in the big Huey helicopters, and they were dropping hay to the cattle. Well, our office provided maps and locations of where the cattle were. So we just gathered up all our maps and went down to the fair building where the emergency management people were and assisted in doing that. It was interesting because, of course, most of them came from Oklahoma City or further down, and they brought in the helicopters, and they were going to drop stock tanks down for these cattle and then bucket the water to them by helicopter. Well, we have no water out there.
Yeah.
So they would have had to go to other states to get it or bring it from down Oklahoma City. So that didn't work, but we did get hay to them. And there was a lot of assistance. We worked with the High Plains RC&D at that time and went to Farmers Aid, which is sponsored by Willie Nelson, and he provided money to transport hay out, or his organization did. And so that was, and we kept track for the farmers and for the Farm Service Agency. We kept track of death loss of the cattle when they'd finally find them, and so that they could turn in the insurance on all. It was just, we were a good contact and an outlet. They could come in and do that. And in April of last year, we had 22 inch of snow. It was a freak spring storm, and we assisted again, not with the maps, but in getting people where they should be and getting some help out there and calling people to see if they were okay. Now the drought that had made so much publicity was in 2008, and we had a film crew come from Japan, and the British Broadcasting Company sent a man out, and then Laura Parker with the National Geographic come out, and we provided tours for these people to show them what they were doing. And then the publication was on National Geographic's site, and then it was filmed and showed as a film in England. And it was really interesting because they were so shocked coming from the big cities they were at and stuff at what we had. So the Japanese were really interested in the irrigation that we have out there. We took them out to my husband's irrigated field, and he was explaining it to them, and they had their interpreter there, and then their broadcaster, and then the cameraman, and it was a lot of fun. It was interesting.
Not your typical day.
No, no, and the school was real good about, we would lease buses from them and pay the driver, and that's how we got around, because we didn't have any way of hauling these people anywhere. But, and they would go like to the restaurants and visit with the producers there and get their thoughts and ideas, but yeah, it was interesting. The farmers market, we started that in 2012, and it was an idea that I thought we need to help our producers. You see the farmers markets everywhere, and they have, several people have humongous gardens and lots of leftovers, and they give to people, or you can buy from them. So we discussed it, and my district conservationist was Sherry Brown at that time, and my equipment manager was Jim Belford, and we got with them and decided that we'd find a place and set up a farmer's market. And I checked with like the sales tax laws and information from Guyman that had a farmer's market. I called them and got all her paperwork, and we purchased tents to set up, and the First State Bank, we signed a release through them, and we used some of their property to set the farmers market up. The district purchased directional signs, sandwich signs, that we set on the edge of town or around the courthouse square to direct people there, and then we provided the advertisement in the papers and on the radios and such for the vendors, and it was real success. It turned out excellent, and until some of the rules and the laws changed, and the Oklahoma Department of Health, young lady from Texas County came and visited with me and asked all these questions and what I needed to do. And it turned out that there's not a feasible way for us to do that. You have to have refrigeration on site. You have to have a hand wash station on site. And we were on a car dealership's parking lot. So that was not possible. And then, of course, some of my people were bringing in their canned pickles, their salsa, homemade breads, burox, tamales, even some brought in rabbits and stuff like that. And we can't do that with the laws. You have to have a licensed kitchen or have your kitchen inspected. Well, my people can't afford to do that. I've got the prices for them and all, but so we discontinued doing the farmers market in 2016.
Recently.
So,
So can you add one onto your building?
I'd like to. I'd like to do something for them because there is a demand. Of course, out there there's lots of sweet corn grown in the cornfields and the huge gardens, and you always have extra squash and stuff like that, and it was helping some of them a lot. I had one lady that would do baking. She was going to and from Amarillo for chemo treatments, and she was using that for gas money, and just won't work out. Can't do that for her, but we'd like to. We had the Oklahoma Society for Range Management worked with us, and we had a range camp out at Camp Billy Joe out by Kenton for the 5-state area for students to come out and spend a week learning about conservation, range, and the ecology of the area. Had lots of professionals from the National Resource Conservation Service, from the Forestry Department in New Mexico, and in Oklahoma, Colorado, and we even have Texas was there. This Camp Billy Joe has dorms with bunk beds and then a big main area and where we feed them. So that went on for several years, and then the interest in the children stopped, that they weren't interested in coming out. It was too far. We're 320 miles from Oklahoma City, and then that was 45 miles on. So it was just too far for the parents to bring them or anything like that. So that kind of dwindled down. We still do education programs on range. We're getting ready to have one the end of May for adults, and the kids can come if they want. But that was something that we tried to do, and we've tried to be very supportive of getting that information out there. That's what's going to save the land, is letting them know how and why, and save the water too.
So some of the challenges are distance and funding and
People.
okay.
Yes, our county the entire county has less than 2,000 people.
Has that changed in the time that you've been with the service?
It stayed about the same.
Has it?
There's nothing for them to come back, the kids to come back for.
I was going to say the ones that have gotten money from, have any of them come back?
No.
Their scholarship, get people, kids?
No, not really. They haven't, but
Well, you said your soil conservationist was a female?
Sherry Brown was a district conservationist. She was a technician, and then she moved up to soil conservationist. And then when our district conservationist passed away, she applied, and we had a different district conservationist for just a short time, and then Sherry got the job.
Was she received pretty well?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Too?
She was raised in the Texoma area, which isn't far from Boise City, and her husband came from Boise City, and yeah.
She's home folk then.
The only problem we had with that was some of the older gentlemen that would come in to do business. I would be at the desk and Sherry would be at her desk, and they'd want to know where the men were. And it worked all right for a while until we had one man that just was insistent he started looking in the other rooms, and we said, we're here. And I told him, I said, do you want to speak to the men that aren't here or the women who know what's going on? And so he said, oh, but it took a while, and we still have some of those that will come in and want to speak to a man. But I have some excellent help now. I have Dino or Delfino Rodriguez is my district conservationist, and his soil conservationist is Weston Henson, and Weston's new, just started last November, but he's really good. You had asked about the state school land that we have in Cimarron County. We have the largest percentage of state school land, and what state school land is, there used to be, or there was, a school about every section or such, and scattered around. Well, when the state school land, they decided to consolidate their land, and most of it they swapped. The good land, or the what do I say, most productive land for rangeland out here. This would go to the state school, and then they'd sell this down here or whatever, or lease it. And they lease that land. It's usually 5-year leases, and it comes up for auction. Some of it has been in the families for generations that have got won the bid. We have had businesses come in and really run up the farmers and ranchers where they can't afford to put their cattle on there. It's just too expensive. Most of those don't last till the end of their lease, but there are a few 3-year leases, because during the drought they had some 2-year leases to get those cattle off or to rotate them or whatever, but generally they're 5-year leases. But the taxes, and they don't pay taxes to the schools and stuff because it is state land, so it's not taxed. So the lease money goes to Oklahoma City, and instead of basically being doled out to the counties who have the land, it goes in the school budget and goes to the whole state. So although we have, let's see, I did visit with Joel Wilson, who manages the land there in Cimarron County. And we have 19.78% of all the state school land. And there's 1,178,880 acres in the county, and 233,211 are state school land. So there is concern, and it has been at the Capitol, and they have argued with them that they need to send the money back to all the counties. I have a list of the counties that have state school land. And but out of all that land, what comes back to Cimarron County is just $73,144. Now the university over there, which is in Texas County, gets $1,098, or $1,098,77. So Boise City gets $44,900. Phelps gets $15,000, and Keys gets $13,000. So that's all that comes back to our county from the state school land. And there's a lot of discussion and cussing and stuff I've been to some of those auctions that, they not interested, because of people trying to outbid each other. But some say they need to sell it and get the taxes back to the county. But I don't believe that the school land commissioners will do that, because they're getting all that money in. But that has been a big deal in Cimarron County, and a big push to get that money sent back out to Cimarron County.
With a 5-year lease, though, the land just owned by the state, and basically is what you're saying. And
Yeah, all those acres are owned by the state. And
it could change hands or management hands every 5 years.
Yes, and that puts problem to the ones that lease it, because if you need a well or if you need a tank or fencing or something on that, well,
Do you invest
you may
or not
not, do you
invest?
invest or not invest, because it may not be yours in 5 years. Now, on some of the practices, you have to leave them there. On some of them, you can charge the people who take over the lease for what's on there. And the state school land has drilled some wells, but if it's your windmill and your pumps and that, you'll either sell them or take them out of there, because if you lose. And so it's one of those deals where, do you make it better for your cattle and all, or do you wait and see if you're going to have it? And some of those, the land has is adjoined to the deeded land that people have inherited or have purchased, and they need that land to run all the cattle and stuff for the plan that they had. And when they get in there and get outbid, then they have to go through motions of seeing, well, what can I do? I lost that land. Well, next year they might get it back, but in the meantime, what do you do with your cattle? And of course, the general problem would be to sell them.
Stressful time.
Stressful time when those auctions come up and you don't know what's going to go on.
Do they have them every year, or is it
Every 5 years. Well, they have them staggered,
yeah.
where there's some every year.
Yeah. So you have to deal with it every year.
Yeah, yeah. They have. They usually have the auction at the. Well, one year we had to have it at the courthouse, but they usually have it at the fair building.
And do you attend just?
Occasionally I do. My son has a little of the state school land, but not much, and my husband doesn't have any, so we have our own. So it's interesting, and personally, that land anything off that land should come to the schools in Cimarron County. Well, or at least most of it. I know they need it for administration and stuff, but they need to do that.
Politics.
Yes, it is politics.
Well, in the 29 or so years that you've seen several governors
Yes.
come through. Have any come to your county?
They had a bet. Our newspaper editor a warrant out for a governor or something that would come out there, and we finally had one come, but I can't remember which one it was.
It's probably during a drought, though.
Yeah, I imagine coming out to look, but no, they don't make it out there. It's too far.
Yeah, too far.
Yeah, but our senators and our legislators and our representatives in Washington come out and do meetings, and they look at the problems, and they'll talk to us, and we have a good rapport with them that we can call them and talk to them. Now, whether they act on it, but at least they know what the conservation district thinks ought to be done for the land or the farmers.
Does the wind turbines play into your county any?
Just now, we're trying. The one that they're trying to, I don't know if that Senate bill passed or not. I think it was 888 or something, that they were backing out of allowing, or what they told the wind farms they said they would do. That company has come out to Cimarron County and Texas County and checked land and offered leases and information, and they're coming, but they're not there yet. And our big deal, the reason they haven't come is they do not have a transfer station. Mm-hmm. Texas won't let them send the electricity to Texas, and they want their own, which, help their own people. And we just haven't had any industry that wanted to come that far out. There again, the distance.
Well, and if they did, would your office have anything to do with that part?
If they needed some help with soils, want to know what the soil is, where they're going to put maybe a turbine or the big power stations or something, we could help with that. Okay. But most of that is all done private contractors through that company. We hope they come out. you know, that, whatever.
Then they have to have the lines to get the I don't know how to get wind from one place to the other, but you have to have that.
Yeah, that's what the problem is. They can put the turbines up, but you gotta have those transmission lines to get to a major station to send it whichever direction. I really don't understand a lot of it.
Well, then you have the aquifer you were talking about.
Yes.
That's been a big
Yes.
issue for a while.
Yes, they talk about it depleting so much. Well, is it really? I know it goes down and it goes up, but that's with the thaws and the rains. And if there's a drought, there's no water going in the ground to improve it. But your irrigated farmers, you're not going to have any crop if you don't irrigate. And it gets to be, Texas and Kansas do regulate the irrigated farmers to just a certain amount of water. So far, Oklahoma hasn't adopted that yet. We have people that come out there and tell the farmer, you need to quit watering. You need to quit watering. Well, do I? You know, they know better than some of them.
About how much, well, you maybe not know the percentage that is irrigated,
I know,
roughly.
I know how much we irrigate.
So you mentioned drilling wells. Do you have to go back and close them?
Yes, that is one of the, was one of our goals in Cimarron County as a conservation district to plug abandoned wells, because that is called, the stuff that get into the wells is called non-point source pollution. So anything that's out there, be it oil or whatever, falls down that hole, or the oil from your irrigation well goes down into the water. It'll pollute that water to where it will not be usable if you continue to do that. So, and you have heard stories of children and people falling down in those wells. So for safety reasons and for definitely conservation and health reasons, they need to plug those wells to keep them from becoming contaminated. And we did have cost share to assist with that as a goal. That we don't have the cost share any longer, but they do have a program through NRCS that you get extra points on these applications if you will close your wells you're not using. And there is a definite, through the Oklahoma Water Resource Board, there's rules and regulations, and we saw to it they covered that. Our producers, one of the problems were getting caliche to fill those. And we went to the county commissioners and asked, how do we get caliche for our farmers from your pits? Well, we have an agreement with the conservation, or the Cimarron County commissioners on that caliche, that they will provide the caliche for that producer and haul it. We can't haul it, they have to haul it because it's out of their pits, and then we pay them for hauling it so much per load. So we do have that agreement to help do that. And we closed a lot of abandoned wells, livestock and irrigation.
So you have, I imagine, a map of all of these?
Yes, yes. Well, and the Water Resource Board has that too. You can easily get that. Yeah, they work with us real well.
So roughly how many do you think are in your county? Just
abandoned?
Either one.
Any? Oh, you know, where there was a homestead every
quarter
mile or fourth of a section, there was a homestead. There's probably a well on every one of those homestead places.
So there's a lot then.
There's a lot, and they, of course, a lot of them, I'm sure, caved in. And that's, yeah, there's a lot of them out there, and you'll find them where they've just put maybe a rock over the hole or a disc off a plow or something over the hole so that they know where it's at, or they can drill around it. But a lot of them have been decommissioned before we even started, just didn't know it. And it's a good deal. We have people that will help them do that and get the right information on how to do that.
You've got a lot, you cover a lot of different topics, and does extension work with you, or
Well,
pull you through, or what?
we went for several years without extension. We had some, and then the funding wasn't there to have an extension agent in Cimarron County, so we relied on the one in Texas County, or we'd go online at that time and get information from Stillwater on the fact sheets and all that. But when they first closed it and they didn't know when they were going to fill it, our office became the outlet for what OSU had to give out, and we had all of the fact sheets and we could get everything that we needed. And so we provided that for anyone interested in anything from the OSU fact sheets and projects that they had. We work real well with her. We have a new one. Her name's Shug Farrington, and she's fantastic with the kids and with the public, and she's really built up our 4-H, and she helps with the FFA. So we have now an excellent extension agent. Yes, it's good. It's been really good for the county.
Well, does Cimarron County have a mesonet site?
Yes, we have two. We have one out by Lake Etling, out in the Kenton area, and then we have one that's 3 miles south of Boise City, and it's located on my son's home place. So we have two, and I brought the records where we were 198 days without rain before it started, and Kenton was also. There we go. Kenton was 195 days. We were 189. I'm sorry. That was without
half a year.
Yeah. That's with less than 25 or a fourth of an inch. Yeah. Here's less than a tenth of an inch. Was 193 at Kenton, 188 at Boise City.
So they're definitely going to have to drill down to the
Yeah,
to get
to
water.
use it. That's, for 120 days, we had only received a tenth of an inch in Boise City and 3/10 in Kenton.
So most of what's on the ground, it's not wheat, it's just mostly cattle out in that area, or?
Mostly cattle out towards the Kenton area or the western area. We have a lot of wheat, we have irrigated corn, we have milo. Some of them have alfalfa or feed.
Okay. And dry wheat, I guess there's some wheat that does better in dry.
Yeah, some of it will work. Right now, I don't know if it'll survive. It's looking pretty sorry, and I did have a producer come in the office, and he said his wheat was struggling and was making heads, but when he opened the head, there was hardly any grain in it, and he said besides that, it's only about 8 to 10 inches tall. There's no way I can harvest it.
Oh, the machine's getting,
Yeah.
they cut that one.
So it's a wait and see. Of course, it always is farming. It's a big gamble. My husband's been farming since he was 17, so he's been out there 45 years or better. And
So does your office have anything to do with helping with crop insurance, that sort of thing?
no, that would be through the Farm Service Agency.
Well then, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the Employee Association.
The Employee Association was a dream and a thought to assist the Oklahoma Conservation Commission in getting the word out about the conservation districts and supporting the employees and trying to get benefits for the employees at that time. They were working on insurance and other retirement and stuff like that. We worked I was a charter member of that, and I worked for what's called Area 1 representative. I represented the Northwest counties and on the board, and then I went to treasurer for several years and still a member. We go to Capitol and lobby basically for conservation, And not just for the district employees, we do it for the entire state, because the watersheds, especially down in the Oklahoma City area and the eastern Oklahoma area, you've got to have those watersheds or you'll have flooding everywhere and it'll ruin the land. It'll come through. They have the worry of water down here, where we just have the worry of dirt.
And wind.
And wind. But they represent all of the employees. At this time, I visited with Lisa Knopf at Owen at the commission to get some numbers, and we do have approximately 100 full-time employees, which is way down. We started out with 88 conservation districts, and with the budgets cut and consolidating some of the districts to make it feasible. I'll tell you what she said. 83, I believe, is what she told me. 84. We have 84 conservation districts, down from 88. In the beginning, when the districts were formed, they were formed by watershed. And so that's why we had more districts than we had counties. It's because some districts had 3 offices and some had 2, and they have now worked together. A lot of them have consolidated, and they're still working on doing that. But the association, we work with at the meetings. We spread the word on conservation and what can be done to other states by attending the regional and national meetings. We had a project where you have, with the change of employees, you need training, and a manual was produced by some of the employees, and then we had training for everyone to come in. And how do you fill out your claim? How do you fill out this? How do you fill out that? And what can you do for outdoor classrooms? And one time we had photography, and the commission came up with cameras for everybody so that we could do publicity and show what we're doing and what we need to do and get our story out there. But the employees work just real close with the other organizations on getting the word out there and assisting the employees, trying to make sure their voice is heard.
So when you started, the benefits were already in place?
Some of them were. But this, and I will give kudos to the Conservation Commission and their staff. They have worked hard to get benefits, insurance, and that includes all the insurances, life, health, dental, eye, and the retirement benefits. And they have really worked hard and have made it an excellent place to be. Of course, we're family anyway.
Yeah. So if there are 100 roughly now, what were they like when you started? 2 or 3 times that? Or
Probably, because with the 88 districts, we had at least 2 in every office. And some offices that have the watersheds and the heavy workload with the watersheds, they would have 3 and 4. So we're down considerably. But some of that has been outsourced to private companies. And
has the workload changed to justify some of that?
some of them, the workload has increased.
Yeah.
I know a couple of counties that are...
Computers may have come into play a little bit.
Yeah, computers help some.
Well,
But it's kind of, with the watersheds, they're busy constantly inspecting them or building them or repairing them or what they have to do with those. Now, like in Cimarron County, we are kind of having a lull right now because we haven't had any rain, so they're not planting, they're not doing, they're tending to their cattle, trying to rotate the fields to find them something to eat. And so the office has been a little slow waiting, but we're there. We'll do what they need. I did order some grass seed before I left for some people that were putting some land back in grass. A problem we're having and have had for the last, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, is we have some young farmers that have decided to break out that land that the older farmers knew to put it in CRP, that it wasn't feasible to farm it. And I'm waiting to see how that turns out, because it's going to blow. You got to have rain.
Shelter belts, did that?
We don't have any of those. Actually, we have windbreaks. We have assisted with putting in windbreaks. We've designed them, and the district sells trees that I get from a supplier, and we take orders and go pick them up and deliver them. And some of them are livestock windbreaks, farmstead windbreaks, because we've got to block some of that. And of course, if we get snow, it's wide open. We get that blizzard that comes through, and so along the highways, there was some windbreaks put in by the Forestry and Wildlife Department, and the ones that are still surviving will help with keeping that snow off the road.
So what's the difference between a shelter belt and a windbreak?
Well,
I don't know. You may not know either, but
actually, probably they're about the same, because that'd be considered a shelter belt.
Yeah, I'm just in my mind, shelter belts are probably cedars.
Oh,
I don't know.
well, we don't have a lot of cedars out there. The Conservation District doesn't sell eastern red cedars. They're considered a noxious weed.
Yes.
So we sell a lot of pine and juniper.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
When you see what you do see, it's probably the juniper.
Juniper. Mm-hmm. And it's just
year all round.
it's hard to get water to them, and that's another thing that we have helped with. We do have all the drip irrigation supplies to put water to your garden, to your windbreak. And it's a poly pipe without holes in it, and then you have emitters, little drippers or something that you put in the pipe where you want it, or we've got ways of teeing it and doing all sorts of stuff with it to get that water there. If you've got a faucet in the area, we can help you get water to all those areas, and I use it at home. It's wonderful because it doesn't blow off. You can just put it right where you want it. And we do sell a lot of that for gardens, for windbreaks, and we have the weed barrier that you put on the ground, like around your trees, to keep the weeds off, and so that you don't have to mow up around there. And we do have a lot of them use it for gardens, and so that's another thing that we try to do.
Sounds like you've had to learn on the job too, T-lines and this and that.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're always learning something new, and I'm fortunate that the NRCS personnel there and state and local will help me understand what's going on. For instance, when I first started and we were having to plan to put in a tank or I didn't know what they needed to put in there, and I didn't know what it was going to look like. So, come on, we're going to go check this out. And they'd show me how this was done. And it's like when we started decommissioning wells. Come on, let's go, so we can show you what we're talking about. And so I have learned from some of the best of them, and still learning.
The terminology, get the words right. Yeah.
Yes.
That goes a long way with an old timer, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Of course, being around there all my life, I either know them or related to most of them, so it works out real well.
Well, I guess if you don't know the answer, you know who to ask.
Yes.
Or at least where to start.
Yeah, we have an excellent contact list of commission people, state people, and federal people that this is happening and what can I do. For instance, the district conservationist, Dino, has been ill, and since November, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, he became ill, and we're just getting him back part-time. Well, the federal agency called and says, if you need this for this program, call this person if you need this. And so we did it by a conference call. I'd get the producer on there and the whoever on the other end, and then we've had them. Texas County has been fantastic. They send over their help, and we're 65 miles from Guyman, and they send over their help and help keep everything going and all the programs going. And when Dino was in the hospital, he was worried about the payments getting to his producers and all that, but they have come through, and fortunately or unfortunately, Weston came on in November, the first part of November, and then this happened, and so he's kind of had to learn with his feet to the fire, and he's doing an excellent job. He's a very pleasant young man, and he's doing well. We're fortunate to have both of them.
Well, and if they come to help you, do you end up having to, do you go help other counties too?
We have,
if you need to?
yes, and that's one thing the Employees Association does too, is they have a new employee come on. They tell them who the secretaries or the program coordinators are in their area, and if you don't know what you're doing here, call this secretary. And the secretaries will travel to help out, and it's just an agreement. And for your programs, for instance, having an outdoor classroom for a bunch of kids and you need a presenter, the equipment manager and I went to Guyman to help them out a couple of times. So if you're in a bind, it's a good organization, it's a good partnership, good working situation to be with the agency.
And reciprocate.
Yes, we work well together.
Well, as a treasurer, what's their source of funding then if you have money to treasure with?
Oh, the dues.
Okay.
There are dues paid,
Okay.
and you have to be a paying member to be an officer. And then they look for grants and for certain things, but mostly the dues are what helps out. Or at the state meeting, we have a silent auction, and we have an auction and a silent auction, and half of the proceeds will go to the auxiliary, women's auxiliary of the OACD, Oklahoma Association Conservation Districts, and half of it goes to the Employees Association. And that's how that we can fund a scholarship one a year. And so it's just, and like we can help pay, when we did the training, we helped pay for rooms for some of those people that had to travel in. And also it's just working it out and trying to get it done.
So the auxiliary, haven't had anyone else talk about that? Is that alive and well? Or?
Yes, it is. For the district directors, their spouses can be in the auxiliary, and at the state meeting they have their own special program, so they don't have to sit through everything they don't want to, and they work to assist the districts and to assist their spouses' office, and they're active.
So everybody gets involved.
Yes.
So Hal's your director?
Hal is my
Your
director.
director. Okay. And that's not a paying gig?
No.
That's volunteering your time?
No, it's a volunteer time. If you travel, we pay the expenses. And if spouse goes, they have to, since it's state money, they have to pay for their spouse's travel. But if he travels representing, any one of them travel representing the district, their expenses are covered. And they used to get so much for attending so many meetings, and it was for travels, what they'd say. Well, they don't get that anymore. So, or you can pay them out of your locally funds, because the state can't come up with money to pay for the district directors, since it is a volunteer position. And but the directors opt not to take it, to leave it in there, and then we pay their travel.
It's a labor of love, I guess,
Yes.
too, isn't it?
Yes, they have to care about conservation and the land that they're taking care of on their own. And it's been a real learning experience for me. So,
Well, in those 30 years, what's been the biggest change, like in Cimarron County?
in Cimarron County,
In relation to conservation?
it would be the farming practices and the irrigation practices. An excellent source of information are the board members. And we had, at the time, they were talking about the no-till and the minimum till, which means you don't till the land as much to disturb it. You use mostly spray or some other way to control the weeds. And my directors were the first to have, they're called LIPA nozzles put on their irrigation sprinklers, which is low energy precision application. And that means it gets it down, it doesn't blow away. And there's different types that blow it down, that drip, that there's several that do that. And so our district was instrumental in getting that in Cimarron County, because the directors would try it and then they'd share with the others to show how that is. And that became a requirement on the sprinklers that the NRCS helped fund to put in. Same way with the working of the land, acquiring the no-till drill for rent for someone to try. They could see that it was better to not till that so much, because you leave more residue on the ground and holds in more moisture if you have moisture, and then it also avoids it blowing away, hopefully. When you get the 80-mile-an-hour winds.
Kind of like a demonstration.
Yes.
In a sense, I guess. Come see what we did.
Yes.
Well, since we're talking about dust, you need to talk about the Dust Bowl film.
Oh, the Dust Bowl film. That was interesting.
Yeah.
That was interesting. We Cimarron County is the home of the famous Coble picture. That is the farmer running to the house with the two little boys following. That happened out by Felt, and people have come long ways to see that. Well, the land has been taken over by a good producer that we went out to find it because someone was coming to film that. So Mrs. Brown and I went out and we drove around and said, we know we're in the right area. Where is that? So we went to one of the farmsteads and asked her, said, where is the Coble place? She says, you're right there by it. But he had cleaned it up because there was a pickup bed and an old windmill and corrals, and he had cleaned it up, and it was in corn, and it had tall green corn on it. Mm-hmm. And so he was showing what could be done with that land. It was great to see it. But we do have some pictures of that drought when I had the crews come in to look at, that it's piled on the fence, and it had blown down to the hard pan, which means all the topsoil was gone and the ground was hard and the fences were getting buried again. We have a good rapport with Gary McManus with the Oklahoma Climatology Center, and he comes out and sees what's going on, and he and his agency help with the rating of the drought, like the D4, D3, and that helps with the programs that the government's able to provide. Because if you're in a severe drought, your cattle don't have anything to eat or drink, and your crops. And it's wonderful that he will work with us, and we keep him informed.
And then the Ken Burns of the Dust Bowl.
Oh, yes. I never got to actually meet him, but his representatives came in the office. We showed them pictures that we had, loaned them pictures that we had of the Dust Bowl, and so they could use those, and gave them a lot of information on the farming practices and lots of contacts. And we did arrange for the interviews with some of our local people, which I learned a lot. I sent in on those. Had two men bring in dust that was from their parents' attic or whatever, and they were really proud of that. And it was neat because just listening to them, you learn so much from those if you'll just listen to them. One of our men that they interviewed was 101, and his mind was there, and he was telling all about all the changes in the practices and what they had to do with their cattle, and I hope we never see that again. But it was great to work with those people to get them to the pioneers that still were there and still able to visit with them. In fact, when the National Geographic interviewed the one that was in his 100s, she would check her. I'd get an email from her. She'd check on him once in a while to see how he's doing, because she had a good experience with learning from him what was going on.
So in your office, you have old photographs?
Yes. We have some of the old photographs. We have some of the old farming practices when they would dig really deep trenches, which is a good idea, or is it not? Well, it stops that land from blowing because you're pulling up those clods. But then when you go back in there to farm that, it's very difficult to do. If there's ever any rain, it'll catch that rain. But we have pictures of the farming practices, and some interesting ones of Hugh Hammond Bennett, which they call the father of conservation. He is one of them that got the NRCS and funding, and got the Dust Bowl recognized in Washington.
So do you do that on a regular basis? Go out and take photos so going forward you'd have them?
I did with the Coble place. We went out and we have a picture of the regular one, and I do have other pictures that they took there of Mr. Coble's area. And then we went out and took a picture of the green corn in contrast, and went ahead and did it in black and white too, and we've got that hanging up beside the Coble one, the black and white one up there. And then we do have a picture of the Black Mesa looking from the top our pilot took. And
seems like some of those might need to be taken every year from the same locale so you could see
what's happening
over the course of 20, 30 years, whatever.
Yeah, because it would be interesting to see what the changes have done.
Can you tell if it's greener now from in your 30 years? A drought's a drought.
Well,
hear that, I guess.
It comes and goes. Sometimes we feast a famine. You can have a lot of rain, and wildflowers are beautiful and stuff, and things come up after a drought that you didn't even know were there. And then you have the drought, and it's blowing away, and you're fighting to even keep home wet. So,
well, as part of the conservation, do you do anything with wildlife? Is that any part of?
We do have. We have worked with the wildlife department on helping them get people that were interested in tags or controlling prairie dogs, or are interested in some of their programs that they have. But basically, with wildlife, we do encourage if you can plant feed spots on some of your land, a strip of feed, and most of that will come through the NRCS, but we encourage that. We do not have a wild hog problem like they have other places. We had some, but the Department of Wildlife took care of that. But recently, all the districts were granted hog gates, and to put out to help control these hogs. And we are going to gift ours to Bradley Hamilton down at another district, because they have too many hogs and not enough people at gates and stuff. And so we're going to send ours down somewhere else and share what we've got. But not much on
you don't have
helping
to worry
them.
about ponds.
No, we don't worry about
stock and fish or anything like that.
No, if you when they come in and ask to build a pond, we say, where? Why? And they do have some, but it's really not a pond. It's kind of just a catch area. It could be called a pond. If they have their stock tanks on solar pumps, or the windmills that just keep pumping because you do have the wind, they do have overflow come from the stock tanks that'll go down into an area and hold water, but actual ponds, not many.
So solar pumps.
Because out in like the Kenton area and stuff, there's it's very expensive to run electricity,
That makes sense.
and
Just hadn't thought about
so
it.
they're doing solar pumps a lot now.
Is that something you all would help with?
Yes, we even have cost share through the Oklahoma Conservation Commission, and on the list is a solar pump. If you want to use that, we have put in several, and I know the other programs that are available have put in several.
That's a clean to us.
Clean.
Yes.
It's clean and efficient. Lots of sunshine that can keep those going.
Well, coming in for the interview, I looked at your website and noticed you do a lot of things on Facebook, social media. You want to talk about that a little bit?
It seems a lot of people are on Facebook, and so I just created a Facebook program for the Conservation District, and we put all our upcoming events. We put information from Ron Hayes, the what is he called? Anyway, he is a reporter for our ag farm that he does, and then I put stuff on there from Gary McManus, and anything that we can share that the area might be interested in. That's one way of getting the word out too. Poster contests, essay contests, and if we have some meeting coming up or someone has meetings, because we'll share the extension and other districts information on Facebook.
And the Mesonet, I noticed you keep up with the weather on that,
Yes.
on that too.
Yes, I just share that for the people who don't know how to get in there and find that Mesonet.
It's a good communication tool.
Yes. Well, we only have one newspaper in the county, and we have no radio stations in the county. So we got to figure out some way to get out there. And like when cost share programs come up, or when we had the farmers market, when we sell the trees, I put flyers out at the restaurants and stuff to get information out. And we participate in the yearly Cimarron County Farm Show, and because that's people we can reach, and it's a good venue there to talk to the people about programs about conservation, and the offices in the building share a booth.
Do you think most of the homes have a computer?
Probably now,
Probably not.
or a smartphone or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. I mean,
Um,
with satellite usage, I can see it's more likely than it used to be.
Yeah.
Having to have a landline.
and we have a cable system there in Boise City that you can get Wi-Fi through, and that helps out. But in the monthly, or it's a weekly newspaper, but every month we have a conservation page that the newspaper sells ads to people to promote that page, and then that whole page is ours to tell about programs, and it's Farm Service Agency uses it, and Rural Development uses it. So it's just a venue where once a month it's just conservation or something that's going on.
And you write those sometimes?
Yes.
Or someone else does?
I write them.
You write them?
I write some, or I find a source and about something to do with your yard or something to do with your field, or I think spray drift is one I just put in there that I got from a agency talking about the chemicals that can drift across to your crop and kill it, and so you want to be careful where you spray and stuff. But I have a lot of sources out there to get information to put on that page.
You have to constantly be thinking, what's next and what can help?
Yeah, what is the interest? It's when there was a garden club, we'd go down and visit with them about their garden and their soils, and it's.
So is it an 8 to 5 job?
Yes.
Well,
Kinda. Yeah, it's 8 to 5, and then whatever you do in the evening.
And there's something how often in the evening?
Not very often. Now, our board members our board meetings are in the evening. Trying to get them, they just don't have time during the day to do it, so we
Well,
do
with
it
the
evening.
school stuff, that would be during school hours,
Yeah.
typically.
Mhm.
And then when you come today, why are you here in the city today?
Just for this.
Just for, you're not helping with the land judging, whatever's going on
No,
today?
I went in and asked them if I could help since I'm here, and they've got it handled, they said, so they have enough people. I used to travel a lot when I was younger, and coming down, and I was on the state employees board, and I was on the state school board, so I spent a lot of time back and forth down here to Oklahoma City, and I finally said, let's see if we can find somebody closer that'll volunteer, but I'll come if you need me. So, so there's a lot of them that can just drive in. I have to come in and stay all night, and then it's a 8-hour drive home. So
I assumed you might be helping with this. It's the National
Land and Range Judging. Yes. I can help since I'm here. I would, and I volunteered when I went in. But our district does help sponsor it. We put funds towards it.
Okay.
So
how much longer do you think you'll work?
I don't know.
Put in 40 years?
No, I don't think so. Probably another, maybe 3 more years. Depends on health, and the insurance is big. The benefits.
With the benefits that they give, is it 30 years or a certain age? Like at OSU, it's the rule of 90. Your years of service plus your age equals 90, then you can retire.
That's what it's the same.
Something for you.
I'm in the 80 because of when I started.
Oh, you started early enough to get in that.
Yeah, so I'm the rule of 8. I could have retired through the commission a long time ago, but the benefits are wonderful. The people are good. It's a good place to work.
What's been the hardest part of the job?
The hardest part?
Yeah.
Well, I can't think of one that was real hard.
Oh, that's good then.
I can't think of one that's real hard. We just kind of go with day by day, see what happens.
Juggling, I think.
Yeah, juggling it. Actually, the hardest part is getting back in the schools to do some education because they're so busy with mandates that they don't have time for just extra unless they're just studying that. And just getting meetings done. It's hard to get anybody to attend. We even feed them and they won't attend. Trying to get the information to where they don't think we're telling them how to do their farming. Yeah, that you can do this. Well, don't tell me how to farm. I farmed for how many years? But it's just hard to get people to come to meetings. Any meeting.
Is that more so in the last few years, or has it always been that way?
Yes, more so in the last few years. Right now, anything that's them not coming into the office, I think a lot of it has to do with the drought. They're not planning. They're not tilling. They're not interested in any program because they can't plant or whatever. I think a lot of it right now has to do with the drought.
And the ones that are in the farming business have been there for a long time?
Yes, most of them. Or their family has.
So they already have their routines established.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
yes.
Yeah, I can see that being a challenge too. But would you do it all over again?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
probably. It's been a good deal. Excellent boards. I've had excellent board members to work with. They're good with if I have family stuff come up. And nearly all of the people that I've worked with have been excellent. Once in a while you get one of those in there, but I can get along with about anybody for a few days. A few hours a day. No, it's been good. I'd do it all over again.
Have you taken some of the things you might have learned on the job home to the farm and say,
yes.
Listen, let's try this?
Yes. And my husband is real good about checking the new things. And he was interested in the sprinkler changes and on his irrigation sprinklers. In fact, he was one of the test because he was the only one they could get to test a deal that was supposed to keep your sprinkler tires from making tracks and all that. It wasn't feasible, but he tried it for them so they could see if it would work. But he's real open-minded. Now, his father wasn't, but he was older and just wasn't going to do the soil testing and all that to see what he needed. He's just going to do it the same old way, same old way. He has since passed, and my son, that is 43, bought the family farm. There's 9 siblings, and none of them farmed but my husband. And he said, "No, I'm not taking that on." So they wanted to keep it in the family. So the siblings all offered it to my son, and so he was working with my husband anyway.
He was interested in staying.
Yeah, he was staying, and he would have for Grandma anyway.
Well, is it getting close to a centennial farm too then, if it's in the family?
I don't know. I'd have to check into that.
Oh, I mean, it's a pretty neat program.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'll have to check into that. I know.
I don't know how long does your husband farm it?
Well, he's been there 45 years, so, and then his dad,
probably at least
50 probably. So it would be getting close. I'll have to check on that.
Yeah.
So that they can apply if it is. That's a good program.
And give Hal some competition.
There you go. Oh, if you ever get a chance to go out to Hal's Ranch, it's really nice.
Yeah,
Kenton area is fantastic.
On my list. Hope to get out there sometime.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a beautiful area.
Yeah. Oh, I've been a couple of times to Keys
Mm-hmm.
and to Boise City. Yeah, it's different from here.
Yes.
I mean, Oklahoma's different all the way across the board, though. No matter where you are, it's a little bit different than the next county over. So,
Well, my youngest son says he won't ever come home because he wants to see trees. He lives up by Tulsa. So he says, but he has offered to come home and help in a pinch.
so once you retire and your husband retires for sure, you just stay there.
Yeah, my husband will never retire.
That's home.
Yeah.
How many acres is he managing?
Oh, I asked him that because I said, she might just accidentally answer me that.
I think
Um,
it takes a lot for one cow. I know that.
yeah, well, we have between 150 and 200 cow calves, and then he has 500 winter stockers on top of that. The total grass we have is 2,232 acres, and the crops we have is 4,215 acres.
Wow.
And then we have a little bit of CRP still.
How does he check his fences? By horse? Not anymore, probably.
No, his poor little pickup. He usually drives down through there, but we do have 4-wheelers too, and we have a couple hired hands that help him out, and then my son because they partner with most everything, and have to check those irrigation sprinklers and keep everything going, and it's a constant job. And then when you add the cattle for the winter and stuff, that's.
But do you have to worry about predators for the
Coyotes.
coyotes?
We have lost some to coyotes this year.
Okay.
And you have a lot of them get bit by rattlesnakes, but usually they survive. They just look bad. You have to take them in, vet and stuff. But mostly coyotes.
Well, then let's talk a little bit about the town. Has it changed much since your childhood till now?
Yes, it has. We have a lot of businesses that have closed, no longer there. There's not any real competition there in town. We have the usual John Deere and parts stores, and we have one grocery store. They did put in a Dollar General, and we have truck stops because we're the corner to go skiing. A lot of people, that's the only reason they go through there. But so we have the Loves and the Toot and Totem. We do have a general store on Main Street that has quilting fabric and just household stuff. One pharmacy. We have a hospital that basically is, they can't do surgeries or deliver babies or anything. You have to be transferred out of there or go somewhere else.
Fix a broken bone.
Yeah, it's most people have to go to Amarillo for the doctors. That's where the specialists are. That's 120 miles. Closest Walmart's 65 miles away. We've had people, when I was on the school board, we'd have teachers that wouldn't come because we didn't have a Walmart or anything close. But, and to do your major shopping, they usually go to Amarillo.
Hey, isn't that where you go around the courthouse?
Yes, the courthouse is in the middle of the square.
I was thinking it was the county seat, so
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
around.
Yeah, it's you meet people going the wrong direction around the courthouse square.
Roundabout.
Yeah, roundabout's what they call them, actually. They're getting ready to redo the pavement through there, so that ought to be interesting. People are confused anyway, so that'll be interesting to see how that goes.
I think it's a very interesting place for a courthouse, so that you just drive all around it and pick a state.
Pick a state, yeah, because you go to a different state all directions, but it's a desolate place.
And
but
of course the infamous bombing.
Bombing, yes. Cimarron County was bombed during World War II. War City was, and not just Cimarron County. That was an accident. The pilots, had you heard the story about that?
Just bits and pieces.
Yeah. The pilots were coming out of the Air Force Base there in Drought, Texas. And with the courthouse square the way it was and the lights around the square, it looked like their bombing station, which was located out in the country. So they dropped their practice bombs in War City and hit some buildings. No one was hurt. They were practice bombs, but yeah, we were bombed.
And your parents would have been in the area.
Yeah, they were probably in the area there at that time.
Did they talk about it?
They hadn't said anything about it, but we have talked to other people there, and they do have a little memorial on the corner with a bomb in it. But those pilots and those trainees were very embarrassed, and they came when they dedicated the memorial. Some of them came, apologized. But yeah, we were bombed. Excuse me. We also don't have any stoplights in the whole county. Stop signs, but no stoplights.
Okay. Not a caution light either?
Not in the whole county.
Does they have a movie theater now?
We used to have a movie theater, but now they have, it was out of business for years, and you have to go to Dalhart or Guyman, and now Elkhart, Kansas, for if you want to see a movie. And they turned it into, it's called the Cimarron County Theater, and some locals bought it, and they have shows once a month in there, local talent or talent that comes in, skits, but mostly music. And it's a big $10 to get in, and that helps pay their utilities, and it has been well received and well attended. I missed a good program that former resident that sings with a band had come in while I was gone, so I missed him. But it's interesting. It's something for people to do. We don't have anything for the young people to do except drive around, and some of them get in trouble. But our swimming pool, that was the place for summer for everybody, had to have so many repairs done that the city couldn't afford to do it. And so it has sat for a couple years, and then we had a young lady that took that on and made got business partners together and got people together and money makers and all sorts of things, and donations come in, and they didn't have to hire anybody to put that in. Our locals have gone together, and some of them had backhoes, some of them had this, some of them were electricians, and they're putting in splash pad and putting the pool back in, and we hope to have it open this summer. But it's mostly all donated now for the official things that have to be inspected and all that. But we do have, of course, we have plumbers and electricians there in town, so it has been a community thing to put that back in for the kids, because it was used constantly. It's an outdoor pool, so I think that's great that the people came together and decided to put that in.
Good community feel
Yes,
too.
yes.
Well, we've covered a lot. Is there anything you can think of that we haven't covered?
Oh,
Unintended consequences of anything that, any lawsuits or?
no, we haven't had any lawsuits. Yes.
Make sure I've got all of the stuff covered. Oh, you've won several awards. We won't go into all of them, but is there one or two that you have appreciated the most?
Oh, I've really appreciated being the Employee of the Year. That was a great surprise.
Through the Oklahoma Association of
Conservation District Employees. Yes, I was nominated by the office crew and my directors for that, and it was a surprise.
Total surprise, huh?
I was honored to do that. And then the one that I got from the NRCS that Gary O'Neill gave me for, it's called Standing in the Gap. And that's why we did not have, we were between having a district conservationist. And so there was a lot of NRCS work that I did or found people to do or whatever for the programs and everything. And so they gave me an award for that, and that was a surprise. And I was very appreciative of that. Of course, I'm appreciative of all of them.
All of them. A highlight of your 29 years?
Highlight.
Do you have one?
The highlight. The highlight would just be helping the producers, because it's when you're born and raised there. Basically, it's all family or friends, and getting the range camp was great, and I really enjoyed the farmers market. That was something to help people. I don't know. It's all been good.
I'd say that everybody in the county knows who you are.
Yes.
For the most part.
Yes.
Can't go in the grocery store.
Sometimes they don't know I still get called by my maiden name, because that's how they knew me, but.
Which was what? What was your maiden name?
Cochran.
Cochran.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's, the Cochran family came from Kenton, so my dad was born in Kenton, and my mother was born right out there by Wheelis and Felt, so we're from there.
Panhandle, born, bred, and
Yeah, raised.
Raised. All right. If you don't have anything, my last question I ask is, when history's written about you, what do you want it to say? How do you want to be remembered, basically?
How do I want to be remembered?
Mm-hmm.
By a caring person, and that liked to help other people improve. Or I've been a caretaker for several family members, and I'd like to be known as a kind and caring person.
And a good steward of the land.
And a good steward of the land, yes. Because if I see something, I think you just get to where you see that stuff, or that's not right, that shouldn't be happening, and you can tell somebody. And I'll do that with people with their yards sometimes. Don't do that. Or getting them to use the drip irrigation. And basically, yeah, I'm pushing the conservation, but I'm also saying this would be easier on you if you would do it this way. And so just...
when you're driving through the county or driving around the state, do you notice things related?
My mother used to come with me to meetings and stuff, and I'd show her the grass waterways and tell her what they were for, and then I'd show her things and tell her what they were for. And yeah, I noticed things. Coming down this time, I noticed the canola is all blooming, and it was beautiful.
All that yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It smells awful, though.
does it?
I think it smells. You should stop and
Stop and
if
smell
you
it?
haven't smelled, stop in the middle of one and smell. It's beautiful, and it's a good
Yeah.
thing, but it's got that unique smell.
And I think I like the cotton fields. I think they're neat. but we don't have cotton in our county yet.
And when your kids are in the car, do they say, "Oh, Mom"?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They of course, I helped him with their speeches and stuff when he had to do his FFA speech with conservation. So
Yeah.
it was good, and I have judged some of the FFA speech contests and stuff there in town, but because they'll have something that they think that we can check to see if they've got the right thing. So it's just be busy trying to help out.
Well, then
Get that-
advice for anyone coming down the pike.
Oh yeah, learn all you can about it and get that, save that land. You've got children and grandchildren that's going to need that land. It's not our land. We don't own it. We just are borrowing it for a time.
That's a good way to end. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's back up and talk about what's the mission of your particular district office.
The mission for the Cimarron County Conservation District, and I'm going to read it so I won't mess it up, is to encourage, educate, and assist in conservation of all natural resources now and for future generations. Our vision is to be known as an aggressive organization who is effective in the conservation and protection of natural resources through education, assistance, and by example.
Okay.
And I do have directors that have been the lead in several things that have helped educate other producers on things to do.
And has that changed over the course of your 29 years? Or
No,
pretty much stayed
pretty much the same. Pretty much the same.
And which one of those aspects is do they way more than the other? Or
Well, they're about equal,
Okay.
because if you can educate them, and then they'll protect and show them, educate them on how to do it and why to do it and the means to do it, they will use those, and that will protect the natural resources. And that's animal, soil, water, and air.
all those vital things.
And then they put human on the end of that too. So, because if you don't have water or soil to grow food, we wouldn't be here.
Okay, and then I understand the district office was one of the first to have its own building.
Yes.
That it paid for itself, and we talked about that a little bit earlier.
Yeah. When we learned a lot of things when we tried to build a building, because conservation districts cannot borrow money as a district, and I did say earlier that we could borrow from other districts. Well, ours turned out so well, and in the partnership with Greer County Conservation District, that when Kay County Conservation District needed a loan to build their co-located building, we went in with Dewey County Conservation District, and the two districts provided them the funds to build their building, and they paid us back because they rent their building out too, and so they would pay us back. The two districts went together because one didn't have enough money in CDs or savings or whatever, and so it took two of us to help Kay County, and that is we set a precedence of doing that, and then that's available out there for other districts if they find something they need to borrow money for, equipment or building.
And would that little bit of interest go back into your CD or something?
Yes.
For
Yeah.
funds to do something else with?
Yes. What we did is we would take their payment and put it in the savings account. And it will help with maintenance on our building. For instance, we're getting ready to put new carpet down and gonna have to paint, and so we'll have that put back.
Well, in any course of the year, what would be in your that nest egg that we're talking about? What would you have? Roughly, it doesn't have to be exact.
Roughly, I think we have $64,000 in our savings now, and of course they paid off their loan, and we won't be having more coming in, so we just left it there and let it build.
Okay.
And anytime that we have additional money come in, we try to put it in the savings. It really doesn't matter one way or the other if you put it in savings or CDs or in what I have is called a NOW account. It draws interest at the bank because none of them are drawing a lot right now.
No.
Yeah, the investment isn't financially feasible out there now, but at the time we did it, help build.
Well, and then like in the going into the future, if a machine comes along that might help do something,
Yes.
and then you'll.
Well, for instance, if they have another big program come up that's grass program or something that we need to get a new drill or we need to do something, we will have that backup and not have to try and borrow money again to get equipment.
Okay. And we talked about a few unique projects back, but then we need to talk about one more.
We have a project that we did. Some of my directors were our big golfers, and Boise City decided to put in a golf course. The city owns the land, but all volunteers put in the golf course. We assisted them in getting their grass for the golf course. I searched several places to find out the best kind and talked to all my seed dealers that I know. And we assisted them in getting grass. And we also assisted them in their windbreak. They purchased trees from us when we do our fall sale or our spring sale. And then we have the drip irrigation system to put the water on your windbreaks. And we assisted them with that. And still, of course, where the mowers visit the drip line and stuff, we still are helping them with doing that. It was, it's just a 9-hole facility, but it's used constantly. They have several little tournaments out there, and the schools have taken up golf in school for one of the sports, and they use that. But that was fun. That was interesting, and they had us go out there because they were getting ants and everything, so we had to go out and find out what kind they were and stuff for them and tell them what they needed to spray with. So we've assisted them in several things, and it's a good local project, and they know they can depend on us to find a solution if we don't know one. But it's been fun. That was a different thing to do for conservation, put the tree in the grass of the golf course, but it was beneficial to the community.
How long did that take? Like a year to do all that?
About a year, because they had to, of course, work the ground for all the water places and the sands and all that. It was a good project.
And you have a plaque that says it.
No, we don't have a plaque of it, but
Made possible by X.
yeah, assisted with or whatever. Yeah, no, we.
Did they let you play around if you wanted to?
My son can, I don't, but they would. Yeah,
Cool.
They'd even loan a golf cart or stuff.
Well, with the trees, have you done other things like like downtown or around the school or something with the tree?
We did during Arbor Day one year. We donated trees to all the schools and planted them and let them choose what they wanted. And we went around and did that for Arbor Day, and then we had the courthouse needed some trees, and we could get them some redbud. That's what they wanted, and we did help them plant redbud trees around the courthouse. And so, and at the museum, we planted a tree for Arbor Day, but it was one that was what I want to say native to Cimarron County and to the pioneer days, like the hackberry, and so we've got them a tree.
Yeah, I wondered. I mean, you would have to know what trees would survive out there.
Mm-hmm.
So you would be doing the research on that.
Yes.
Or someone else.
Yeah. We're considered Zone 6, so we do the research on what tree might survive for that area.
And a redbud wood.
It would. They don't grow very fast in Cimarron County, but they will, and that's what they wanted at the courthouse.
Okay. I was curious.
Yeah. Now the schools, most of them pick some kind of oak that grow a little faster, but of course they'll have water there at the school, so.
So where would the trees come from? Colorado or?
I buy them through, this is another partnership, the Clayton, New Mexico Soil and Water Conservation District, and they have a tree program, and they buy them all over Colorado, New Mexico, and all areas, and ship them in, and then we buy them from there.
So that would be their money making.
That's their money making
project, and you give theirs away, and you give them away from When you get them, you give them away or you sell them?
We sell most of them, but we have put them at, like I said, at the museum and the schools.
So it may be a little bit of a moneymaker on your part too?
Yes, it is.
Just a little one?
Yeah, with not a lot of work, because she does all the ordering and everything, and then we just pick them up and divvy them out. But it has been a good project. Trying to find something else to bring in money this year was, I had the Conservation District in Dallam County, Texas, call me, and she was selling poinsettias, and I thought, oh, I don't want to mess. I said, well, I'll try it one year and we'll see, because she was telling me that she'd made quite a bit of money on selling poinsettias, and I couldn't figure out how that'd go with conservation, but it did go, and we made a little money on that. I have a different way to do it this year, and it'll be some of our locally earned funds that we can use for other projects.
So every year you have something?
I try to find something to keep the money coming in, so we can keep the maintenance on the building and all that done.
Okay, so you got lots of hats.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in a small office, and
Lots of hats.
lots of co-workers that do the same thing across the state. We have to be inventive on some of the stuff we do.
And the network alive and well, and
Yes.
partnerships and stuff. Okay, anything else?
I think that's it.
All right, thank you again.
Thank you.